All right, this is the Dvar Malchut, a speech which was given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1991. This week's Torah portion is Chaye Sorah. Chaye Sorah begins with Abraham looking for a place to bury his wife, and immediately afterwards, he begins to occupy himself with finding a bride for his son Yitzchak. And in order to find a bride for his son Yitzchak, the Torah tells us that he sent his servant. His servant was Eliezer. And he told Eliezer that you have to go and find a son, find a wife for my son. And she has to come from my family. And he gives him all sorts of instructions of what it has to be like. And he makes him swear that he'll do the job. He'll do the job properly. Okay. The question is, why? First of all, why did he have to send a servant at all? I mean, Abraham is a big tzaddik. He should have just prayed to God, and the girl would have come along on her own, right? Would have come. For some reason, it didn't work that way. The girl that Yitzchak had to marry was far away, and she was in a not so pleasant place, and she was in a home of people that were not so pleasant. And even though they were relatives of Abraham, but still they were not so. But even more, Abraham did not go on his own. He sent his servant. He sent his servant, Eliezer, to do all the work. So it's sort of a double, triple question. First of all, why did you have to go at all? Why did she have to be far away? And if it was going to be, why couldn't Abraham do it on his own? You know, I mean, he slept 3 days to take his son to sacrifice him. That was not a so good thing. I mean, it seems it came out to be good, but I mean, for sure he could go and look for a wife for him, take the servant along to serve him. But no, he sent the servant, and the servant did the whole thing. So the Rebbe is going to explain over here that this is a very, very encouraging and inspiring lesson to us about what it means to be an emissary, what it means to be a representative of Abraham. And in our case, the Rebbe, of course, was speaking to all of his emissaries. They're called Shluchim. Shluchim. This is a speech which was given at the Shluchim convention. Every year they have a big convention, and there's hundreds, even thousands of Kenes Shluchim in the whole world. And the Rebbe is trying to explain to them, or he is explaining to them, what exactly is their purpose. What is this whole idea of being a shliach? And the Rebbe is going to say that there's several different levels of this being an emissary. One is you just have a job to do, like you send something with UPS or something. You just send it. The emissary is completely not involved in the whole thing. He just has a job to do. He developed the package. Or it could be a little bit deeper than that. That the person that you send to do something, he is in your place. He is in your place. In other words, he is the same thing as you. Whatever decisions he decides to make on his own, he can make it. Of course, within a certain framework. He can't just marry. Abraham gave him directions, what type of a woman to find. But nevertheless, any other thing, any means that he used in order to get to this end are considered as though Abraham himself did it. So what type of an emissary is it? Also, the Rebbe is going to say another thing, and that is that we see that Eliezer did several things that were not exactly clarified to him by Abraham. Abraham gave him a pretty wide gamut of free will. He just gave him a goal. The goal is to find the proper wife. And whatever means you use to do this, is I agree with. I agree with. You have to, in other words, you're on your own. You're on your own. The goal is clear, but you're on your own. So, in other words, he was an emissary. He was like Abraham, but on the other hand, he was totally independent. He could make up his own mind. The goal was clear, but except for that, he was his own agent. So, what exactly type of a shliach was he? Was he like a robot that he had to do exactly what Abraham said, or was he like a dog? You just like a carrier pigeon. He wasn't involved at all. He had no free, right? Didn't care one way or the other. He just had his nature. He just had a job to do. He did it. Or was it maybe something in the middle? That he was not a robot. In other words, he did have his own free will. But on the other hand, he was very involved. He was very involved. So we'll see. Now, of course, the end point that the Rebbe is going to say is that just like Eliezer had total free reign, could choose whatever he wanted to, but the goal was clear and the goal could not be changed. Right? Abraham couldn't send Eliezer out to find a wife, and Eliezer comes back and says, I did it. I made a business deal, $100 billion. You're the richest man in the world. What about the wife? Come on, wife. You can find the wife anyway. 100 billion. I didn't send you for that. I sent you that Abraham said I would rather lose all my money. In fact, he gave everything, it says. It was everything. You have one purpose and one purpose only. It's not to make me famous. It's not to make me successful. It's not to make me powerful. It's not to make me popular. It's one purpose and one purpose alone, and that is to bring back Rivka, bring back a wife from my son. The Rebbe says also, same thing with the Shluchim. They have one purpose and one purpose only. And they have free reign to do this however they want to, of course, within the realm of Torah mitzvahs. And that is to bring the Mashiach. That's the only goal. That's the only purpose. That's their shlichus. That's what they were sent to do. And okay, let's go. Then now we are standing. Are we recording? Yes, we should be. Yeah, we're recording.
Yeah, it's recording.
I see. Okay.
It's recording.
I know. I wanted my pointer. Now we are, says the Rebbe, in the beginning of the Shluchim convention. This was the last Shluchim convention that the Rebbe was at. The last one, the Rebbe spoke about. After this, the Rebbe had a stroke that rendered him paralyzed, and he could not speak. He actually came to the Knesset Shluchim. He made an appearance there in the year after that, but he couldn't speak. Well, he couldn't speak. And then from then on, all of Chabad said, long live the Rebbe, the King Moshiach. Everybody. With very slight exceptions, but 99.9% of all of Chabad was sure there's no doubt the Rebbe is the Mashiach, and we have to declare the Rebbe is Mashiach. And even after he was paralyzed, they would bring the Rebbe out. It was then everyone would Yechi Adonenu. You had to say Yechi Adonenu. And the Rebbe is the Mashiach. And one of the reasons is because of the speech that the Rebbe gave. Our only purpose is to bring Mashiach. Now we are at the opening of the Knesset Shluchim Olami. Hashluchim Sheyechia, the Shluchim of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Nasi Dorenu. The Rebbe always said about himself that he's just filling up the chair of the previous Rebbe. He's just carrying out what the previous Rebbe started. And now you are Shluchim of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Rebbe said, I'm also a Shluch of the previous. You came from all of the different four corners of the earth. We have to remind us. We have to mention, first of all, at the Yesod, the foundation, at the Tavkid, and to begin with what is the purpose, the goal of the Shluchim and our generation in general, and especially that was added lately, in the service of the Mashiach, and that is to receive the face of the Mashiach, to receive Mashiach and the Geula Mitit Shlema and the true redemption of the Jewish people. That's it. The Rebbe could have really stopped here. That's the whole entire purpose. Okay, just to remind everybody that that's why you came here. That's why you came here to see me, to get a little bit of recharge, to be recharged, to do the only reason that I made this whole business of Shluchim and the convention is only to bring Mashiach. That's it. And Dvar come upon it, like it was said many times, Shenos of Alanakuda. Hamashutefes, in addition to the point, B'chalalos Avodas Shlichos Shel Bnei Yisrael, in the general, all of the Jewish people have a purpose. B'chalal Keshluchav Shel HaKodesh Baruch Hu, every single Jew is an emissary, a representative of God. Shehi, which is, and we have a job. What's our job? Of every Jew. Ani Nivresia was created, L'shamish es Koni. It's in the end of the Kedushin, the Mishnayos Kedushin, right? L'shamish es Koni. I was created only to serve my creator, my owner. Ubafrat, and especially Shel Shluchim Shel Nasi. If every Jew has this purpose to serve God, especially those who are the emissaries of the leader of our generation. Nakuda Mishutefes, we have one common goal, Sheshav L'Kol Zamanim, which is equal all the time, Mitvosef Mizaman Zman, and it increases from day to day. Chidush B'Shlichus, the novelty, the newness, the freshness of the Shlichus. We have a special purpose, not just to serve God like every Jew, but Sheyichuderes, with a special purpose which permeates, and this is the gate that by means of it, Olim, calling in Shlichus, by means of it, everything of our work as being Shluchim goes up. That's the door which opens to success. That's our purpose. And how much more so in our case, Ben Kiddush Kloli, a general new thing, a new fresh thing. She'enu Rak Prat, it's not just a detail, or klal, or it's not even a generality, nosef, an additional thing to our shlichus. The Rebbe is saying, I'm not giving you a new thing. Like, for instance, the Rebbe added on, we have to learn Rambam every day, right? A new thing, you have to add on Rambam. Then one time the Rebbe said, we have to add on, go around and say 12 sentences with gather Jewish children together and say 12 sentences from the Torah with them, right? Gather them together and say, that was a new thing the Rebbe gave. Says the Rebbe, now I'm telling you, this is not a new thing. I'm just renewing it. This is the main purpose, the whole reason we were founded, and that is, namely, preparation for the arrival of the Mashiach. Shemakiv, Kol, and the Kudos, Vapratim, Shalavudas, Ashlichos, which that encompasses every detail of being an emissary of the Rebbe. So there are, how many like official Chabad houses there are in the world? Official, whatever you want to call it, Chabad houses in the world. I don't know, 1,000, something like that, a lot, right? And each one, there's several shluchim that are there, so there's a lot. Then that's the Chabad houses that they're just working at, bringing people from the outside in. And then there's all the schools and there's all the institutions. So there's a lot of Chabad emissaries of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is saying that we have only one purpose, and the reason that we were founded, don't forget this, don't get sidetracked, is only to bring the Mashiach and to change the world. Okay, now what is so important about Mashiach? And we've talked about this a lot of times, and I want to talk about it again, but very short, 3 minutes. Mashiach is basically a person that's going to do to the whole world what Moses did to the Jews in Egypt, be freed from slavery. In Egypt, who the taskmasters, who the how do you say, the slave owners, was clear. It was the Egyptians. And who were the slaves? That's us. Nowadays, nothing is clear. It's not clear who the slaves owners are, and it's not clear who the slaves are. The reason it's not clear is because both of them are us. We're both the slave masters, and who are we enslaving? We're enslaving ourselves. And we're enslaving ourselves with misconceptions and with ignorance and with laziness and with selfishness and with anger and with the depression and with oppression and with all these things. We're confused. We're confused. And this confusion and lack of clarity in the world, that is our taskmaster. Those are the Egyptians that are enslaving us. And it's enslaving the whole world. The whole world is under this terrible pall of ignorance and selfishness and confusion and misdirection. And when it comes down to it now, is self-destruction. All these movements are just self-destructive movements. And I mean, so if it was not clear up to now I think it's becoming more and more clear what's going on and what's lacking. That for instance, there's this Hamas. There's just pure destruction. I mean, they killed children and people in the most clearly just pure destructive, evil ways. Just unheard of. Just anyway, there's no way of talking about it, and they're being supported. There's people that support them, right? And there's people that are from the big leftists that they're for homos and for this and that. And the Hamas, they would kill all the homosexuals. They would kill all these things that these leftists, this woke and the LGBTs and they stand for. They would just destroy them all in a second. But they don't care. All of a sudden, suddenly everybody is for confusion. They're for death. They're for opposite. So it's becoming clear who the enemy is. And the enemy is found, I'm not talking about those people. For sure they're the enemy. We're talking about how we can find that in ourselves. Every person has a little Hamas inside of him. Every Jew has a little Nazi inside of him. Every human being does. And that is self-destruction, which that explains also anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism, the Jews are a reminder, whether they know it or not, that everyone has to get their act together. And people don't like that. People want to say, I'm Hamas. I'm with the Hamas. I'm just, do what you want. Just do whatever you want to. Destruction and this. People don't like to be told what to do. Especially to be told that they're wrong. They got to get rid of they're identifying with the wrong team, with the wrong side. People don't like that. That's what Mashiach is going to do. Mashiach is going to educate the whole entire world to tell the world that they're on the wrong track, that they're essentially good people. Every human being is essentially good. I mean, there are some human beings that are essentially bad, but Mashiach will tell us who those are. But most of them are just miseducated. They're just confused. They're just confused. And one of the reasons they're confused is because the Jews are confused. It's like Noah jumping out of the ark. As soon as we would do that, all the animals would kill all one another. Right? Like when they took Daniel out of the lion's den, the lions just ate everybody, anything that fell down. They ate up. The same thing, the Jews are supposed to bring calmness and normalcy to the world. And the Mashiach is supposed to wake up the Jews. That's why we need Mashiach now, because the Mashiach is going to educate everyone. He's going to be an example, and and also there'll be big miracles. It says from God, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is not the miracles, even though we need pretty big miracles now. The fact is, and I hope that God does it really soon, because the situation is just too heartbreaking to mention. So, if those people really want to stop the war, the way that they'll stop the war is to let the Jews continue doing what they're doing, and that'll stop the war. That'll stop the war. Maybe everybody will come to their brain, but really the only way to stop the war is what the Rebbe is saying now is Mashiach. Only thing that'll do it is to convince people to change their priorities and convince people to connect to the Creator who's creating them. Okay, so that's what it means. And who is supposed to do this? So Mashiach is supposed to wake up the Jews, and the Shluchim are supposed to do everything they can to get the Jews ready for this. The Jews have to get their act together. And you can see it happening in Israel. More and more people are putting on tefillin for absolutely no reason except for that they're Jews. They're realizing that, listen, being a Jew is a good thing, and the reason that Hamas did what they do is because they're bad. They're evil people, and the Jews are good whether they realize it or not, and we have to increase in this good. What's the good? That we can do what God wants. That's the good. So, and therefore the Shluchim, they're the ones that are supposed to bring Mashiach. That's their whole job. Now, Mashiach is a human being. It's a person, and the Rambam gave the criteria of Mashiach, and the previous Rebbe had all the criteria, and the Rebbe said it many times, and the Rebbe himself, he has all the criteria. All the criteria of Mashiach, the Rebbe has. So if whoever the Mashiach is going to be, it's going to be somebody exactly like the Rebbe. And the Rebbe has not been disqualified yet. So, if you want to be vague and sort of, avoid the question, so maybe it's somebody else. But if you want to be clear, then it's obvious that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is the Mashiach. But in any case, however you want to, the job is to prepare the world. And prepare the world means to strengthen people to do what God wants. Torah, commandments, acts of goodness, 7 Noahide commandments for the non-Jews. Like we said many times, and especially in the last months and weeks, Alpi, according to what the rabbis say, Shikavar Kolo Kolo Kitzim. The rabbi said, what is it, 1,000 something, 900 years ago, 800 years ago? It says that all of the projected times when Mashiach is supposed to come, they've already finished. Who does Admor? What does it mean they've already finished? That Mashiach is supposed to come. There's no doubt about that. And if he comes right now, he's already 1,800 years late. So for sure, it's not good. It can't be that. Well, if time went by, then that's it. He's not going to come. It's not so. Mashiach has to come. There's no doubt about it. It says Afal Pishit Mameya. It's one of the 13 principles of faith. And the rabbi said that all of the projected times when Mashiach is supposed to come, that they've already passed. The whole does cover Kodesh Moricham. By the way, there is one opinion. There is one opinion in the Talmud that Mashiach is not going to come. There is one opinion like that, but the law is not like that. So it took it into consideration that if you think that thought, that you're going according to one of the great holy rabbis of the Talmud, and the opinion is not like him.
What was the opinion? I didn't hear.
What was it? It's in Sanhedrin. The whole thing of when Mashiach is supposed to come. There's one opinion that says that all of the times have gone, and there ain't Mashiach Yisrael. It's not going to come. Not going to come. So if you do according to that opinion, then you've got who to rely on. The only problem is that opinion is not right. The opinion is not accepted in the Talmud. Shekavar asu tshuva. All the Jewish people have already done tshuva. Gamke. Ad shekavar saimu. After the class, I'll take questions. Ad shekavar saimu et kol inyani avoda. All of the things of service. Even it says that tzachzechet kaftorim. What does it mean? That the previous Rebbe said that we have to get ready. We have the big parade to accept the face of the Mashiach. We have to prepare ourselves. And so the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe also said that everything is already done. He said, all we have to do is shine up the buttons on our uniforms. In other words, a little nothing is left. And the Rebbe said that we've already shined up the buttons. The tzachzech kaftorim we've already done. The omdim muchanim, and we are ready. The kabbalat panei Mashiach tzikenu, to accept the face of the Mashiach. Hari avodah v'shlichus. So if so, our whole service now is liot muchanim. We have to be ready. The poil, the kabbalat panei Mashiach, to receive the Mashiach. The poil mamash actual. In other words, the actual coming of Mashiach depends on God, when God decides to send this person. But we have to be ready and waiting and disappointed every moment that Mashiach doesn't come, but nevertheless hopeful that in the next second he's going to come. That's what Jewish people have been doing for 2,000 years, which seems a little bit ridiculous, and it is. But on the other hand, that's what Judaism is based on. Abraham taking his son to kill him because God told him to kill him. That's even more ridiculous. And that's the basis of Judaism. That the Jewish people believe that God is good, despite what our eyes see. Despite what I see. And if you look closely, you'll see that, in fact, those things that seem to convince us that God is not good are only, mirages. It's just, of course, there are big things like the Holocaust and the destruction of the first and second temples that you can't explain that away. It's just our imagination. But we have to believe that those things will be explained somehow or other. And somehow or other, even though it's totally incomprehensible now, and it's not incomprehensible, it's against any sort of understanding, but it will be made clear by Mashiach somehow or other. God is good, and everything he does is good. How that's going to be, don't ask me, ask the Mashiach. From this we can understand. That's the whole purpose of this gathering of the Shluchim. The world convention of the Shluchim, of the emissaries of the Rebbe, Hanochachi, now. Litaber, to speak, Piyachat, together, Ulatzeit, and to come out, Hachlatot, to vote with good decisions, good resolutions, Almanad, in order, the Kaimim Bapol, to actually do them. Keitzad Levatzeya, how to do this Shlichos, which was in our time, namely The only thing we have left to do is just prepare the people. Mashiach is supposed to come any second now. Do more Torah, do more commandments. Jews act more Jewish. Non-Jews act more human. Do the 7 Noahide commandments. Get ready. Any second, something really, really big is supposed to happen. It's going to be an amazing surprise. It's not just religion. It's not just fairy tales. It's not Baba Mises, like they say, grandmother stories. It's going to really happen, more certain than anything you can possibly be certain about in your life. Mashiach is going to come, no doubt about it. And there's going to be major changes in the world for good, for no doubt about it. We see exactly the opposite. You have to have faith. That's the whole point of this whole business. It's not easy. We're saying, on the other hand, it's the easiest thing in the world. We just have to like Abraham taking his son to sacrifice him. This is part of the work. Somehow or other, this is what God wants. This is part of the job, that we should ignore all negative things in the world. If we learn to do that, to ignore all the negative things in the world, then that will do away with 99.9% of frustrations and paranoias and depression and aggression and all these negative things that are in the world. It's just because people pay too much attention to negative urges. Okay, and Mashiach is going to teach us how to do this, give us what to positively think about, so that all of this negative power, the negative energy, will dissipate. Let's explain, what is the connection of being a shliach, of being an emissary, shel hashluchim and namely, the Rebbe is saying, all of you shluchim that are all gathered together with the Mashiach. What's the connection between a shliach and the Mashiach? First of all, let's explain the connection to the Mashiach himself with Mashiach being an emissary. So the Rebbe is speaking to all these Chabad people that they have Chabad houses in all over the world, right? Almost every major city in America, in Europe, and there's shluchim all over in Russia nowadays, everywhere. So the Rebbe is saying, you people are shluchim. Your whole purpose is to bring Mashiach. I'm going to show you Mashiach himself is a shliach. Mashiach himself is just an emissary. Shomer Moshe, because there's a sentence in the Torah right in the beginning of the book of Exodus, and God is speaking to Moses at the burning bush, and they have this dialogue over there. And Moses says to God, God, send whoever you want. But God says to Moses, I want you to go and take the Jewish people out of Egypt. And Moses says, listen, I can't talk really good, and I stutter, I stumble, my tongue-tied. Moses had the speech impediment. Says he was covered lashon. Said, not only that, who am I to take the Jewish people out of Egypt? Send whoever you want to send. Okay, shalach na, please send in the hand of whoever you want to send. And Moses said to God that God should send Shekodesh Baruch Hu shalacho, that God sent Moses to take the Jewish people out of Egypt. Moses said, send whoever you want to send. In other words, I'm not saying yes, 100%. What am I saying? What is he saying? Oh, Moshe said in front of God, Rabbuna Shalom, Shalach biad tishalach, send whoever you want to send. Who do you want to send? The Mashiach. Moses was telling God, why send me to take the Jews out of Egypt? Why not send Mashiach Shuatid, that he's going to take the Jews totally out? Why do it twice? Let's make this one the final one. Al Pizeh, according to this, Yesh Lomar, we can say is that in the Mashiach, himself is a shliach. Mashiach himself is an emissary, according to the Torah. Mashiach is shliach. Shalach tishalach. Like it says, shalach tishalach. With the freeing the bird, it says it. A mother sitting on the eggs. Shalach tishalach. He is a shliach of God. He is an emissary of God to redeem the Jewish people. Now, God could do it on his own. When the Jews left Egypt, what happened? Moses told them what to do. Why did Moses have to tell them what to do? I have a better idea. God could have just killed all the Egyptians. He didn't even have to take them out of Egypt, the Jews. He could have just killed all the Egyptians. One day, the Jews would wake up and they'd say, or hypnotize them, hypnotize all the Jews, hypnotize all the Egyptians. And the Egyptians, the Jews would wake up in the morning all trembling, and then, and the Jew would go out and say, "But you're not going to beat me today?" And the Egyptian would say, "Oh yes, master. Would you want me to beat you today? Whatever you want, I'll do." You said, "What? What'd you say?" "Yes, master. Would you like me to shine your shoes before I beat you? Whatever you want, I'll do." But you're not the masters anymore? "Oh, no. You're the masters." "Oh, that God could have done, huh? That wouldn't have been so hard." He probably would have had to hypnotize the Jews also to want to be leaders because they were so used to being slaves for so long. Okay, we could do that also. Why did he have to send Moses? And Moses had the 10 plagues, and he took the Jews out of Egypt. The whole big Misa Megillah, God could have just put all the Egyptians to do a lobotomy or something on all the Egyptians, give the Torah to the Jews in Egypt, and that's it, finished. The Egyptians, they were the rulers of the world. The Jews would rule little by little. They could widen their borders until they came to Israel, right? Israel's right on the border of Egypt. Why did it have to be this whole thing? They sent Moses, and Moses had a lot of trouble with the Jews, and the Jews said no, and yes, because Moses was a shliach. God wants us to do it by means of a shliach. Just we'll see in a moment, just like Abraham. He didn't want to do it himself. He wanted to use a shliach. He wanted to send Eliezer. God wants there to be emissaries, Moses. And another emissary is going to be Moshiach. And says the Rebbe, you that are sitting here at this convention, the Rebbe is talking to the Shluchim, to the emissaries, you're also Shluchim. The same thing. God could do it on his own, but he doesn't want to do it on his own. He wants to do it through you, with a person that has free will. So we see the Mashiach himself as a Shliach. The reason is that Moses requested that Moses said, "Don't make me your emissary, do it through Mashiach," is like Rashi said on the pasuk, "Biyad acher shetirtzeh lishloach," that you should send with the hand of somebody else. She'ein sofi lekansam le'eretz v'layos go'olam atid. Moses said, "Listen, God, why do it in 2 stages? I'm going to take them out of Egypt, and then somebody else is going to take them into, and they're going to get scattered all over the world, and then the Mashiach is going to gather them all together. Why not send Mashiach right now and take him straight from here and gather them all together? Yesh lecha shluchim arbei. You have a lot of other people to do it." Oil sin, so b'lav hachi lo yishlach HaKadosh Baruch Hu at Moshe, because Moses said, "You're not going to use me to take all the Jewish people into Israel and to redeem them in the future." So Moses said, "Why don't we do just one step, God? Send Mashiach now. Sheyishlach et Mashiach lios go'olam shel Yisrael gam mitzrayim." The Mashiach will take all the Jews from Egypt. He'll change all their priorities, like Mashiach is going to do. He'll teach them godliness. He'll change their outlook on life. Then all the Jews will be gathered. He'll take them to the land of Israel. They'll build the temple, and that's it. There won't be 3 temples. There'll be 1 temple. And that's it. And then everything will be okay. That's what Moses was saying to God. Shalach b'yad shalach. Why do it in stages that I start, and then there's going to be thousands of years of exile, and then you do it right now, God. Send Mashiach right now. Okay, why did Moses say this to God? Moses certainly understood, Befrat, and especially that Moses was the ultimate completion of wisdom, of holiness. Moshe Kibel, he received the Torah from Mount Sinai. Word for word, every word that he said was exactly what God said. Shekodesh Baruch Hu Atzmo, God himself knew Shehu Atid Lishloach et Mashiach. God knew that Mashiach was going to come only in the thousands of years later, and not Moses. Legolas Yisrael, to redeem the Jewish people in the future. Ubakol Zod, Moses knew. Excuse me, please. Moses knew that the Jewish people would not be brought totally into Israel except by means of Mashiach. He knew it. And he knew that God wanted it to be done in stages. Why did Moses all of a sudden say, "Hey, I don't want to go, God"? God chose Moses. Moses knew that there was going to be Mashiach, and nevertheless he chose Moshe, as a shliach to redeem the Jewish people from Egypt. Why did Moshe request Shalach na biyat tishlach? Why did Moses say, God, change your mind? Change your mind. What you're doing is not, I don't agree. Right? Instead of sending me, and then thousands of years later sending Mashiach, send Mashiach now. Moses knew that he was asking a wrong thing, what he was going against what God wanted. The Idachis, on the other hand, Moshe, since then Moses, who is the ultimate level of wisdom, he requested this, so it's moving shekenu al pi chachmas hakadusha. Moses can't be the Moses was wrong. What Moshe was saying, there must be a place for this in the world of holiness. But if so, lama lo nitkabel b'kasho. Why didn't? Here we see Abraham, just in last week's Torah portion. Abraham argued with God. Maybe you can save Sodom and Gomorrah. Maybe there's 50 people, you'll save 5. There were 5 cities in Sodom and Gomorrah. Maybe there's 50 people, you'll save 5, 40, maybe there's 9 people in each city. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe you won't destroy them. He tried to change God's mind, right? And finally, in the end, God said, listen, there's not enough righteous people in the cities. I'm destroying them. Okay, but he tried. But Abraham made a condition, and the condition was that if there are this many people, will you save them? And God said, yeah, I'll save them. But here, Moses, he was requesting something that was already closed from the beginning. Moses knew that the Jewish people would only be brought by Mashiach. Why did he make this request? God, don't send me, send Mashiach now. Why? Why did he make the request? He knew that it was futile. On the other hand, if Moses, that he was the ultimate level of holiness, if he, for whatever reasons and whatever considerations he had, he knew this, he made the request, it must be that it was a proper request. Moses would not make a foolish mistake. If so, why didn't God at least deal with his request? Why didn't God, like with Abraham, at least say, come on, Moses, maybe, yes, okay, I'll think about it, all right, Yesh Loma, we can say, that this is exactly the point. Since this is the request of Moses, the Hovan is brought in the Torah, and the Torah is true, and the Torah is eternal. It actually did. Moses requested, and it actually did happen. Moses wanted that he should be the Mashiach. Well, it happened. The same emissary that God sent to take the Jewish people out of Egypt, Moses, he became the same redeemer in the future. Like it says in the Midrash, Moses is the first redeemer, and Moses will be the last redeemer. It says the last redeemer, Mashiach, has to come from the tribe of Yehuda, and Moses came from the tribe of Levi. Okay, we'll explain that. But it'll be explained. But nevertheless, God fulfilled Moses' request, and he said, okay, you'll be the first and the last. That's what Moses really wanted when he said Shalach biyat Shalach, even though that he knew that God knew that in the future there was going to be the Mashiach thousands of years later. Moses wanted to join the first redemption with the last redemption. Shegama Geula Rishona, that also the first redemption that God took the Jews out of Egypt will be attached to biyat Shalach with the Mashiach. V'gam Geula Acharona, and the last redemption will be attached to Moses. Kolomer, in other words, Sha'af al even though that Moses and the Mashiach, they're two different people. Moses comes from the tribe of Levi, and Mashiach comes from the tribe of Judah. Beit David, Umorim, and also Mashiach Moshe and Mashiach. That indicates on two totally different topics. Nevertheless, they are attached and united one with the other, like we're going to learn. In other words, since the days we went out of Egypt, it's one constant redemption. How this works out, we're going to find out. Here we go. The human say will understand this by preceding a biur, an explanation, b'klalos gather a shlichos b'Torah. Exactly, what is this whole idea, according to the Torah, of making an emissary? Excuse me. If I give someone money, let's say to buy a house for me, right? They call it, what is it called? Proxy. I make a person a proxy. What does he got the power to do? Can he change his mind? Can he change? What can he do? When I make, that's a shliach, right? An emissary. Is that person really an emissary of mine? Or is he just a delivery boy? Delivery, just delivers. What is shlichus according to the Torah? For instance, the shlichus is very, very relevant, especially, it's talked about a lot in the Torah about divorce and marriage. Divorce and marriage can be done by means of an emissary, by means of a shliach. Those are two major examples, but also other examples. You're sent to do a job, right? You're sent to do a job. When you're sent to do that job, are you like the hand of the person who sent you, or are you just like a delivery boy, a postman? You're just carrying out one order. You get paid for it, and that's it. You have no connection, not to the person who's sending you, not to the person who's. Do you have a connection to the thing that's been in your hand? You have to move it from here to there, whatever it is. Okay, let's see. According to the Torah, how do we explain what is shlichut? Hechel, first of all, the first time that we mention this idea of shlichut, somebody being an emissary in the Torah, this is, and it's mentioned in great length, is Abraham sending Eliezer. And he sent to find a bride for his son Yitzchak. And the way that Eliezer did it afterwards, his shlichus, making the connection between Yitzchak and Rivka. What did he do? And all the details, it's very, very, very strange. This week's Torah portion, it deals a lot, right? I don't know, 2/3 of the Torah portion are dealing with the seemingly, what it was called, inconsequential, totally not important details about what happened on the way to Eliezer. He was not even a Jew. Eliezer, what happened on the way, Eliezer, to find a bride and bring Rivka back. How he traveled and with his camels, and he told the camels to stop by a well, and he said, whoever comes out, he made a sign for himself, whoever comes out to bring water for my camels, and she says, you also drink, and that's the bride, and all of a sudden she comes out, and she comes out Rivka, and she says exactly what he said, and he's very amazed. And then it says that she did it, and explains how she did it with the water and the camels. And then she says, well, I want you to meet my family, and he meets the family, and she tells the whole story over again. So the story is repeated 3 times. What's the business? What do we care about this with the camels, with the conditions, with this? Just say he went, and he met her, and he came back. Instead of taking 3 lines to explain this finding Rivka, it takes, I don't know, I haven't counted it, but it must be like 100 sentences to explain. Why? Why so much? So it says like this: Yesh makom. First of all, the echkor, we can ask, Maya Geder Vadin, what exactly was the status of Eliezer in doing the words of Abraham to take a wife for Yitzchak? There's many ways. One of them is, number 1, Eliezer shliach kedushin. He was like a messenger to Mary. Shashlucha shalaram kamoto. Namely, that the emissary of a person is like that person. I'm sorry, not a messenger, an emissary. He is like the person himself. Also, there's the Maisa Shliach, is the Maisa Mishaleach. Whatever the emissary does, it's like the one who sent him did, or more. Gam koach asiya shel shliach hu mikocho hu kamoto the mashliach. That the power that he has is like everything he does is from the Mishaleach, or even more. Kol kulo shel mashaliach is kamoto the mashaliach ad kamoto mamash. That the emissary is the person who is sending. The emissary is the person who's sending. The president of the United States sends an emissary to Russia, right? And the emissary that comes into Russia, as he slaps the emissary of Russia in the face, slaps him in the face and spits on him. So he said, "What was this? What was this?" He said, "Well, maybe the guy he had an attack. Maybe he's not normal. Maybe something. Maybe he misunderstood." Said, "Okay, let's find out. Let's call up the president. Find out. Calls up the president of the United States. That person you sent, if he does something not good, is that you did it? He says, can't be did something that whatever he does, that's me. Whatever he doesn't do, and he doesn't blink an an eyelid, without being connected to me. Everything he does is me. I trained him. Everything he does, that's me doing it." So he just slapped my emissary in the face. If he did it, then that's right. It's no mistakes. Right? Is it really the same thing? Is he the same person? Or maybe Eliezer was just a shadchan. Maybe he was just like a messenger. His job, he had a job to find a bride for Yitzchak, or maybe he was just like a messenger to consummate, not to consummate, to finalize the marriage, right? Or maybe a shadchan lekadsha, even though shekam shadchan b'kocho lekodesh, aval ein ze oto koach kamo shaliach, is not exactly like a shliach. He has the power to finish off the wedding. He can deliver the wedding document, but it's not exactly the same thing as the one who sent. If, let's say, I make a matchmaker, I don't say the matchmaker is like me. If I send somebody who's to make a match, somebody to find me, buy me a car, and the person goes to buy me a car and he slaps the guy in the face that he's going to buy the car from, that's not me doing it. They won't take me to court. They'll take the person who slapped him to court. But if I say, listen, I want you to find me a car, and if the guy doesn't want to sell it, slap him in the face, and he can say, listen, I'm just carrying out the orders that he said, right? There's a place that maybe I could be, the one who sent him can be put into jail. Okay, so again, what was the category of Eliezer? Was he totally just like the hand of Abraham, or was he just like a carrier pigeon or something? That he was just there to carry out a certain function, and when he finished, it was finished. Yesh for Lomar, we can say that maybe Eliezer was not exactly this like the hand of Abraham. Elam Metzius was different, but he was a separate entity. It was something like a matchmaker, or like we said, like the carrier pigeon. Kafi Shamashma, like it seems to indicate in the Shidduch, from that Eliezer was Machzer Limso Ila. He wanted to find some sort of an excuse, Sheyomer Lo Adam, that he could say to Abraham, Lifnot Alav Lasio Bito, that Eliezer, he wanted not to succeed. He wanted some reason that he wouldn't find a match. Why? Because he really wanted that Abraham would marry his son Yitzchak to Eliezer's daughter. Eliezer also had a daughter. And he thought if he comes back and says, I couldn't find anybody, but I have a daughter, and she was probably of a very high quality person. Eliezer himself was just an amazingly talented and devoted, person. Omer lo Avram said, listen, B'nei Baruch v'ata arur. My son is blessed and you're not blessed. The ein arur medabek leborach. And a person is not blessed cannot cling to someone who is blessed. Right? Abraham is blessed by God, and all the rest of the nations are not blessed. Rashi explains what it means. So if so, it can't, but nevertheless, Eliezer, he had his own mind. He had his own sort of agenda. He had his own sort of agenda. So that makes him sort of like the carrier pigeon. He has his own sort of thing. If a carrier pigeon, he's supposed to bring the thing, all of a sudden he sees some food on the way. So maybe he'll, someone says, give me the letter, I'll give you a nice piece of bread or something. It could be a carrier pigeon. He has his own agenda. So it seems that maybe Eliezer wasn't exactly like the hand of Abraham, because if he was like the hand, he wouldn't have any selfish side motives. Ubafrat, and especially Sipra Dvarim, Mudgash, Barichos, how is Eliezer himself? He had to work so hard in order to find a shidduch that's fit for Yitzchak. Eliezer had to pray and for himself to God. He had to clarify and to make a sign. If the girl who comes out and brings me water and for my camels and for me, he had to make a sign for himself. So and it had to be, everything had to be, God had to do miracles for him. Shekain Avram Omarlo, because Abraham didn't tell him to do any of those things. Abraham just said, find a wife for my son from don't take a daughter for my son from the daughters of the Canaanim. El Artziv El Moeti, but find someone from my family. Below Pirit and me, Allah of the Kadesh. He didn't say who was. He didn't tell him who. He didn't say go and find Rivka. If so, Eliezer, there was a place where Eliezer could have made his own decisions. So if so, it seems that Eliezer was not just like the hand of Abraham, but he was like the carrier pigeon. Of course, carrier pigeon doesn't have his own opinion, doesn't have his own beat. So let's say he's like the, what do they call it? The people they send these, if you had not IBM, I can't remember. I never used them before. These packages that they send, right? They send packages by means of a carrier. So the guy can decide on his own, maybe he wants to go into a bar on the way or something like that. What the people listening, what do they call it? Why did it slip my mind? That they steal the packages. Some people steal the packages, and some people, what's it called? They bring them in a truck. I don't know. Anyway, but on the other hand, Eliezer was Zakin Beso on Moshel B'Kol Shalo. On the other, so on one hand, Eliezer seemed that he was just like a messenger, right? He was just bringing like packages. He had his own opinion, his own life, his own way to do it. He just had a job to do. On the other hand, we can say, no, maybe Eliezer was not a separate entity, that he was like the hand of Abraham. He was the elder of the house and he ruled over everything. That he said, Moshel b'torat Rabo, that he learned all of the wisdom of Abraham. Dole mashke mitorat shel Rabo, that he learned everything that Abraham had to teach and he taught others. But Eved Avram, he was a servant of Abraham. And it says that Eved Melech, it says that the servant of a king, he himself is a king. But Gam also became Dvar Avram, also what he did for Abraham to take a wife for Yitzchak, Eliezer did in all the details, just like Abraham did. And even more, Abraham made him swear on everything. He said, put your hand under my thigh, and everything. He would be a shliach, namely, he would be totally devoted to Abraham. So if so, was he just like an emissary, or was he totally united with Abraham? He was, so to speak, Abraham's hand in this other place. We can say that this was understood. We can understand by Yikach Eved Esra Gamolim. It says that Eliezer took 10 camels from the camels of his master, Vayelech, and all of the good of Abraham he took in his hands. That he gave him everything. He gave him everything, and he's going to ask, why was it necessary to give him everything? And we're going to stop here. We'll stop tomorrow. We'll continue from the Yesh Loma. But now we'll learn the Yom Yom.